Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new live stream this Sunday. My name is Brittany Lewis. I am an artist, an author, graphic designer, and tarot deck enthusiast. Now, every Sunday, I usually set aside this time to work on my dream project, but today we have a super special guest. We have Miss Zajé Richardson in the building. So excited to have her here. She is a mom. She is a singer-songwriter. She is a host of a podcast called Dots and Spacetime, and she's also a deck creator. So today we're going to get all into her journey, her why, her decision and experience for using AI as a means of creation, and we're going to have such a great time. So Miss Zaje, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, so before we started, we was back there having a good time. We were seriously connected and having a great time. So I want to again tell you thank you so much for coming on live and talking to me and just kind of sharing your experiences with my audience and building and connecting in a very real and genuine way. So thank you so much. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you from, where you based, all of that good stuff.
So I'm from originally Washington, D.C., and right now I'm based outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Like you said, I'm a mom of three boys. Actually, one is like a grown man next month.
Time flies.
It does. I've been singing since forever, been writing songs since forever. So that's what I do as well. My husband is a producer. We make music together. Our oldest is a producer as well. So we all
Oh
make music
wow.
together.
Wow.
I have the podcast, Dots in Space Time. Then I'm studying for like real world jobs, like, oh, no, construction estimator. So I'm doing a whole lot of stuff. I'm feeding into me, just pouring
Right.
into me like I used to do. And this Oracle deck was one of the things that just popped up when I started the podcast. Like, what should I do? Like, what else should I just like to do a whole bunch of stuff. Clearly, you can see that I'm just like
Listen.
a multitasker, multitasker.
Yeah, that's how creative people roll. It's like once we get an idea, there's like a thousand other ideas that come
Oh
to
my
mind.
gosh,
So,
ever.
as somebody who is super creative and like has all
Mhm.
of these things going on, how do you find balance? Like that's one of the things that I'm always curious to hear about. How are you balancing so many, aspects of your life and still making time for Zajay?
I find balance through everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I can think of. Like I find balance when I'm busy. I have
Mm-hmm.
my times where I need to like take a break, especially like being a mom of three humans is like it's a lot of directions going on
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So, and I'm like a hermit. I'm a cancer. I'm really that go into my crab shell.
Listen,
Really?
yes,
When is your birthday?
July 21st
I'm the
is my
12th,
birthday.
and then my youngest is the 13th.
Really? I told you, man. I was like,
Yeah.
so I'm tripping because me and Zajay have had so many synchronicities and like
Yes.
things in common that is like really blowing my mind. So yes, also a Cancer, Team
Wow.
Cancer. So that is so
And see,
awesome.
now we gotta get into like the big three and all that, but we'll do that another time. But yeah, it's just like I thrive when I can like use my entire existence to do
Hmm.
something. That is
That's
just
beautiful.
I'm learning that about myself. That's how it happens.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
awesome because I know a lot of people balance looks different, right? So for some people it's well let me stop doing so that I can, spend time over here, but I love the idea of finding balance in everything. I think that is awesome. I think that's very important and it's an easy way not to get burnt out or like, beat up on yourself when you don't make that
Yeah.
time.
You as a creator, when you're working on a piece of artwork because you're an artist, if you start to like see it, but not you can't even see it anymore, you gotta
Mhm.
go to something else.
It's
You
time to
got to,
redirect. You're
yeah.
right.
And I can't sit still. Like if I'm not writing a song, I can't just lay around and not do anything.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, I
That's
thrive in that.
awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. So this Oracle deck. I'm going to show
Mhm.
a little bit of a video because I have the cards here for everybody to be able to see. First of all, the cards are beautiful. Like, I think they're really, really awesome. Tell us a little bit about your Oracle deck. So, like, how many cards do you have? You know, what size are you thinking? What is like the overarching theme for this particular project?
So I have 120 now cards
Oh,
designed
okay. Oh, wow. That's
with
awesome.
not I don't have a booklet because I
Okay.
feel like I wanted the art, and I'm not an artist. I have done a like paint and sip, here and there, but
Uh
not
huh.
enough. And my husband's like, "This is really good." He just loves everything that I put my hands on, and I'm like, "This is nice, but I cannot just do this." Like they had to tell me what to paint. So like, what else? I'm not an artist. I can paint, but I'm not an artist.
Mm.
So I wanted to bring these visions that were in my head onto a
Mm-hmm.
little, maybe 3 by 4. I don't
Okay.
know the standard sizes that they
Okay.
will manufacture, but I really want people to look at the cards and like you see the title, you see the gist of it, but like start to learn to use your inner voice to see what this
Mm-hmm.
card means for you. Because I can read you. I can
Right.
read you and I can give you my interpretation. But if you are doing this yourself, let me tell you, when I read myself, the way these people be talking to me, the way these people gonna talk to you through me is they my ancestors.
Listen.
They my ancestors. Your ancestors, your angels, they gonna talk to you a different way. You're gonna
Right.
get different. My uncle passed away, and this is one 4 of cups in this one particular deck, and I forget. You would know it if I show it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But on it, the shirt that this person says, "I don't care." And every time he want to say something smart, or I say something like, "But y'all not making no sense," this card will come out, and I know it's just for the "I don't care." It's not even like you're not looking around you. You're not looking at what we told you. So
Uh-huh.
you don't care. I don't care. That's why I be like,
Listen.
okay. So
Listen.
that's
I
what I
have been cussed out
wanted.
so many times reading
Okay,
for myself. It's
I
like,
can't even see y'all no more. This don't make no sense. This is
yeah,
fluffy in this matter.
I love
So, but
that.
that's what I
Listen.
want from. I want people to be able to look at those cards and
Mhm.
really get an emotion. And what does that emotion tell you? And start really like feeling it with
Right.
the
So
vision.
more of an intuitive deck than, a by
Yeah.
the book sort of system kind of deck. That's awesome. So will they, since it is an intuitive deck, will each card have a like a keyword or will it just
Yeah.
be like images and things like that?
It'll be a keyword in like one sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, because I know when it comes to reading like cards, not just with like tarot, oracle, and things like that, people either tend to go towards, and we're going to talk a little bit about extremes later on, but people tend
Mhm.
to err on the side of extremes, right? So they're
Mhm.
either extremely like, intuitive, where they don't really pay much attention to the card meanings and things like that, or they're extremely by the book. And so I love that you have, for one, you're emphasizing the intuition, using your intuition and what do you get and feel from the deck. And then you also have that keyword and phrase. And I think that helps kind of bring some, yeah, moderation.
Mhm.
And then you're
Mhm.
not controlling the narrative with the guidebook. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes as
Right.
readers, we kind of get bogged down into, well, let me make sure and
Right.
interpreting it right, you'll get a
Right.
chance to kind of read those cards intuitively. So I really love that.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
now, so you said you're not an artist, so and these cards are AI generated, right? So
Mhm.
AI is like, I don't know, people are again with the extremes, either have an extreme, they're extremely against it or they're extremely for it, but there's no real middle ground. My personal take on it is I err on the side of moderation, right? I think the technology itself is not a bad thing. I think for sure a person should, if an artist work is being plugged into a machine to teach it how to create, then that person should be compensated. I think that's just fair because in
Mhm.
any other intellectual property situation, a person is being compensated for the use of their thing. But I think as a technology, it's not a bad thing, right? And I think
Mhm.
that it also helps with people who may not have the resources, whether that's financial resources or sort of the knowledge of how to hire an artist, that kind of gets them in the door where nothing else is sort of working that angle. So talk to me a little bit about, and hey, shout out to Dreamwise, Black Z2, and everybody. Hello, everybody. I hope y'all doing all right today. But talk to me a little bit about the decision to use AI as a means of creation.
Well, I knew I had over 100 ideas. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that. I knew I had a lot. And just as I said, I want you to look at it intuitively. The whole idea of it came intuitively. I didn't sit down and map anything out. I literally
Okay.
just opened the artificial intelligence engine and
Mm-hmm.
typed something and tried it, and then I couldn't stop typing. Like I couldn't stop
Okay.
visualizing. And so, in that respect, I'm not an artist, but we're both creatives. So
Right.
the writing and um, directing the AI to give me, for instance, that first card with the
Mm-hmm.
higher self. I had
Mm-hmm.
to say, I wanted a black woman in a pond, her higher self glowing, standing above her. You have to give, and then you put the nuances like ethereal and
Right.
um, the emotion that you want into what it is that you're trying to.
Convey, right?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it showed you something. And then, oh, I tweaked this a little bit because I think that the woman isn't big. Like, I want the higher self to be exactly what, like, she's still not even as big as I would want her to be, but the card is only so big. So, it's like a constant creative writing thing when you're talking to this machine because, like you said,
Right.
it's not, for me, the AI was not the the point.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because I'm not an artist. I would love to be able to work with an artist one day, but I knew commissioning 100 artworks and sitting there and trying to go back and
Right.
forth with you and say, this is what I don't really like this. Can you tweak this? I don't want to get nitpicky, especially when you have a style. Like every artist has their own style and da da da. So perhaps this is a door opening to say, this is how I like my imagery to be. Any artists out there, we can work together later on where I might be in a better financial position because I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
That
have
makes,
100 artworks in me to commission from an artist right
right. That
now.
makes a
And
whole lot
so,
of sense. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So that was my reasoning around it. I don't. And I'm a songwriter. If someone goes to AI to write them a song and it works for them, God blesses whom He pleases. I can't get
Exactly.
mad at that. I
Right.
write from my downloads, from my inner voice, from God, from ancestors. I just write from that inner self. So I I I look at AI as a tool
Mhm.
that I don't want to let leave me behind, if that
Right.
makes sense. I don't
That makes
want this thing to have been, everything was in, the airplane was invented, these cell phones were invented,
right.
all of these things were invented, and we figured out how to use it. It's always something that is like a yin and yang, to the extreme, like you said. Did you watch Oppenheimer?
Not yet. I have not seen it yet.
So the main point is that he's building this bomb, and it's like, as soon as you build this, the entire world has changed forever.
Exactly.
You can't go back to life before this
Right.
bomb. It
That
will
makes a lot of
always
sense.
be here. Right. So it's like with him, he's like, I don't want to kill people, but I also don't want anybody to kill me. And I had somebody giving me this information, and we're going to get there first. So it's like that duality sometimes all the time with what is coming up, but I would not want to dismiss it.
Right.
We want to
And I
learn
and
how
I
to
agree with
manage
that. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think a lot of what's missing on either extreme is that people aren't don't necessarily have nefarious intentions. Like you said, that gives you an opportunity to create intuitively, to receive downloads and to direct the machine. And I believe there is some skill involved in it because you have to be able to take those downloads and articulate them in a way that this program then says, okay, this is what this is the image that we're creating based on what you say. And then it
it.
teaches you that if it doesn't spit out what you're intention is or what you have in mind, how do you re-articulate that, right? And so
Mhm.
I love that idea, and I love that again, it gives you an opportunity to just create, right?
Yeah.
And so I had last year, I did some interviews with some graphic designers at How Design Live, which is like a design convention.
Wow.
And the question came up. And this is what I think is very interesting about this conversation. We often only hear the extreme sides, right? And we
Mhm.
only like those extremities are the only people, the only voices that kind of get, notice and kind of get attention. But during this interview, I interviewed maybe 12 different designers from all over the country. And the general consensus is it's a tool, right? Like you said, don't let it leave you behind, if for nothing else to kind of learn how it works, right? And so for myself as an artist, I can actually see the potential of it, ethical things aside, because I think that will at some point be rectified, where people who have, works and things have been used for profit to train these algorithms, I'm pretty sure they'll be compensated, because there are things
Right.
happening behind the scenes that are going to make sure that happens, right? But
Mhm.
as a tool, as a sort of piece of technology itself, I can see how it would absolutely help me in my in my workflow, right? When it comes to creating ideas for references. That doesn't mean that I, as an artist, am any less than because I use this particular tool, and it doesn't mean that Zajé, who's used this tool to create beautiful imagery, right, is any less than for using this tool. So I appreciate you being super duper open about that.
Yeah.
So what have been some of like the advantages and disadvantages of working with AI? So like, is there a learning curve? Or like, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I guess the disadvantages is there is a, I mean, depending on your aptitude for technology and creativity, like together,
Right.
I guess like the left and right brain together, it could be a little bit more of a learning curve. There are different, so many different settings that you can like combine to get the look that you want. I wanted like a hyper realistic, but still artistic, but still like you could see reality in the car. Like I
Mhm.
just wanted it to be really detailed. And then they still trying to make people on this artificial intelligence engine. The people come out looking so crazy sometimes. And I don't even mean crazy like scary, but it's almost like it's a real person.
Mm.
And I think that's it's just creepy to me. It's too much. Like make it look like a cartoon. Like don't make it look like a human. Like don't creep me out like that. Um, and then like the fingers, like sometimes how like I'll
Yeah.
say I want somebody holding hands and they just like this, and it's like what are y'all? So AI is still not, it's not going to come at
Yeah.
you because you know how to do certain things as an
Right.
actual human creator, whereas AI is just programmed. So
Right.
let me see. You do have to be very specific, and you
Mhm.
do have to have a vocabulary. Like you do have to know how to be creative in your writing because
Right.
depending on how you want this to look, AI can really give your imagery and energy, or it can just be
Mhm.
flat and bland. So
Mhm.
you have to know how to like put like the glow or like the reflection or
Right.
the sparkles or the in, how do you want it to look if you want it to look reminiscent of something else like that crystal garden. Oh my gosh. Like I just love that crystal garden. And just looking at them, just seeing you you have to really know what to tell the
Mhm.
artificial intelligence to do. The advantages, though, I did so many, like the 120-ish designs that I have, I probably ran through 1,800 credits just
Okay.
to those. So
Wow.
I went through
Right.
the amount of card, like I was just spitting them out over, I think the course of a week.
Mhm.
I was just feeding information. I would think of a card and try to see if I could create it. If it was something that just was not going to happen, I would just table it,
Mhm.
and move on to the next thing. But you can, you have space to like really expand
Mhm.
outside of, because I'm getting into it. The 3D is
Mhm.
so limited versus what you can imagine in your head.
Right. Right.
And trying to tell someone that is difficult. So it,
Right.
I mean, I had to chop it down because it wasn't coming out right. But when it does, it's just like this is exactly what I had in my head.
Okay, that's what I was really curious about. So, like, if you said 1800 is amazing. Like, first of all, that is wow. How do you decide? Which ones make the cut, right? So, how do you decide? Okay, this one says exactly what I want to say. This one gives the emotion. How do you go through that process?
it's it's really just an inner knowing. It's really just
Mm.
I'm looking at this thing like it's speaking to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very I'm very 5D. I'm living very 5D.
Mm-hmm.
Every idea for those cards came from my experiences, came from my own readings, came from some of
Mm-hmm.
my own decks, like being inspired by decks that I have. And I just need to feel it. Like if I feel it, then that's the one. And then I keep it moving. I
I
feel
think
it.
that's so beautiful. I love that because so often in the conversation, people who are creating AI works are so like often dismissed as if, well, we're just, but to hear the amount of thought and the amount of care that you put into, creating these works, because like I said, 1800, that's, you know, plenty of decks, right? There's plenty
Right.
of decks
Right.
to sort of use your discernment, to use your inner knowing, to use that, love frequency to pick cards and, tailor make this deck for a certain experience. I think
Mhm.
is, we have to give you credit for that. That's so awesome. And you can feel it in the cards, right? You can, if I'm going to show you guys these cards again, you can actually feel it, especially this first one, because that's why I put her first. I was like, she's my favorite. There is an emotion tied to these cards. And so as
Mhm.
a creator and someone who's also sort of using my own experiences and spiritualist meditations and downloads and things like that, I love to see how you are also doing that, just on a different, slightly different way of doing it. So I think that's really beautiful. That is awesome. So for someone who is thinking about, creating through AI, and whether it's a deck or whatever the case is, how are you navigating sort of the copyright issues, right? So I
Mhm.
know that right now it's set up so that if you are, publishing something that's made for AI, for instance, I did a children's book for a lady last year, and
Mhm.
half of the illustrations I did, was able to create, and for the other half, because there was she was adding images later on and I just wasn't available to do that, she chose to use AI. And so when she
Mhm.
went through the copyright process, she was able to copyright, because in this particular case I signed over the rights, which is not always the case, but in this case I did, because that's just how it worked out for this project. And so she
Mhm.
was able to copyright the images that I created, but they told her, well, no, you cannot copyright the ones that, and she had to specify, which ones were AI and which ones were hand done. So, as
Mhm.
someone who is producing a product, right, that will go out to the masses, and I'm seeing worldwide for you, so will go out worldwide, how do you sort of navigate that space? And how would you, have you given that any thought or anything like that? How does that work?
I have I guess I'll cross the bridge when I come to it because I
Mm-hmm.
don't I'm not really sure how they do this with cards
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not selling the artwork as my own. It's more
Right.
so a deck of cards.
Right.
So do I pay my monthly membership. I pay my monthly fee. So hopefully y'all will take that because that's what I paid y'all.
Right.
But I guess we'll just see if they want a cut. I don't know who to make that out to.
I don't
If it's a
know. I
machine,
don't know.
I don't
I know
know.
when
I
you
don't know
go,
how that goes.
yeah, I don't know how it works, because I know that when it comes to like decks and stuff, they kind of lump it with books.
Right.
So I don't know if once you go through like the copyright office to actually like, solidify this as Zaje's. I don't know how that
Hmm.
works, but I was just kind
Yeah.
of curious to know if you've like, navigated that space yet.
Hmm.
But I'm with you, you get there when you get when you
Whatever
get
they
there.
say, and some people don't want to print things that are not your property,
Right.
like your actual
Hmm.
property. So, I mean, I guess I'll just see what they say because at the end of the day, I think that this tool that has been put out here for all of us, because they don't have any idea what to do with it, they're kind of
Hmm.
shutting down the people like us. But
Right.
larger people get away, corporations, businesses, they get away with so much of so much.
Hmm.
The tarot community is large to me, but
Hmm.
in the global landscape, y'all not really worried about that. So let us just make our
Right.
little deck and our little cards and call it a
Yeah.
day.
And one thing I will say too is that there's an audience for everything, right? So
Hmm.
regardless to the extremes, there is an audience for this
Right.
particular medium, right? So
Right.
it should not, again, if you are new here, maybe you didn't catch this part. My stance is that artists should certainly be compensated if their work was used or will be used to train the machine. Um, Absolutely, right? I do believe
Mhm.
that that is coming. That's happening. I know that there are advocacy groups that are going to Congress and making this happen. That is where I am. But as a tool, I do believe that the technology is there. It's not going anywhere. I feel like it is wise for creators, especially because creators, I think, are going to be the most impacted by it. I think it is wise to learn the tool, not even if you're going to use it, just for a better understanding. I think it's important to have these sorts of conversations because it's one thing to put it all in the category of big bad wolf, right? And this big
Mhm.
bad thing is happening. But when you have conversations like the ones Zaje and I are having, where you can kind of get a better understanding of the thought process of choosing this particular tool, right?
Mhm.
It humanizes it a little bit. You know what I mean? It sort of brings it down to earth because here is a creator who is wanting to express herself and like has been called to do this thing. Who are we to say that she can't do that? You know what I mean? And so bravo for you for doing it.
Thank you.
So that's one of the things. And I have seen again, I think the conversation really is just about ownership, right? So as long as those people who are affected by it are compensated by it, at least as long as we have a choice, right? I think that's one of the biggest points of contention is that the artists who were affected by it did not have a choice in the say. As things grow and as things begin to progress, all of that will change, right? And once
Yeah.
that changes, the conversation is going to be drastically different. So don't allow those things to stop you from progressing in your own practice, right?
Mhm.
Don't
Mhm.
at least, like I said, to be curious about it, to sort of ask questions before you form those extremely spirited points of view. So
Mhm.
that's sort of my take on it. Now I've seen some really really cool people or some suggestions about like how to use it for your manifestations. So what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that, like creating not a spirit board, child, what's the word? The image, the vision board, that's the word I'm looking for.
A vision board
Yeah,
with
using the images
AI.
for a vision
Oh
board. How do you
yeah,
feel about doing something like that?
that does make a good. That is a good idea, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I just think that whatever intention that I put into something is
Mm-hmm.
that's my output.
Right.
My input is my output. I don't think of AI as an entity, I
Right.
just think of it as a set of numbers in this algorithmic technological space, and we can use it like almost similar to how the universe is using us. If we're 99.99999, however many 9% space,
Mm-hmm.
and all of this is a vibration that we are interpreting as Brittany and
Mm-hmm.
Zajé sitting and talking on this, this cell phone that let's not forget a couple centuries ago we would have been witches. This would have been witchcraft. This
You
would
ain't
have
lying.
been a crime. Okay?
You're not
So
lying.
it's like I just think that I'm using this thing. And so if my point is to make a vision board that's going to feed me and get me to where I'm going that I've already seen. I just
Right.
got to get this body there. Why
Right.
not? Why not? Because
Right.
like I said, we're limited here. So I can get all the magazines I want. I can cut all the pieces of paper out, but maybe that will just be another way for me to really expand it in a way that speaks to me. And we're
Right.
we're all different.
I
So
love that.
Why not?
I do. I'm with you. I love that a lot. Okay, so finally, and I think this is going to be the final comment on AI, but in terms of like your experience, right?
Mhm.
If someone is in the mind of using this tool to create a deck, an oracle deck, a tarot deck, Lenormand, or whatever the case is, what words of
Mhm.
advice would you give that person?
I I just really want everybody to go out with the best possible reasoning, the best possible stance, the best possible intention, the best possible energy. Like we all got to make money. I'm not saying, oh, money. No, we need money. I know we
Right.
need money. So definitely, if that's your intention, that's your intention. But also, I'm here to help. I'm here to serve.
Mhm.
I'm here to give. I'm here to spread a knowledge or a word or something like just really put the best intentions in because not only do we not want to give that to people, but please understand it's coming back. Please understand it's coming back. So I think everybody that's on your podcast has the best of intentions. So just
Mhm.
keep that purity about yourself as you go through and
Mhm.
you create. That's really the advice I have.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so you are the host of Space Dots in Space Time, which for one thing I think is like a beautiful. That actually, just my 2 cents. I think that would
Mhm.
be a great name for your deck.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Duh.
just add my little 2 cents
Yeah,
right there. But I
yeah.
love the
I
name
love
of your
it.
podcast.
Thank
And one
you.
thing that I was able to kind of check out a few episodes, and it is available on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon and wherever you can get a podcast.
Everywhere.
That's in Space Time is available to you. What I love so much about your podcast is that, for one, you are a black girl in this esoteric space. I love that because we don't see a lot of black women specifically. I know that Dream Wise's wife, D. Ray Wise, does a beautiful job at this. Dream Wise himself,
Mhm.
we had Panic before he transitioned and different teachers like that. But we
Men,
really, Mhm,
men.
right,
It's men. Right. Go
very
ahead.
male dominated. So we don't often see women in this particular space, and so
Hmm.
that for one thing made my heart smile because it's like, okay, for one thing, we're not, as black people, we're not a monolith. We hear that all the time, but there is a big interest group in what you talk about on your
Hmm.
podcast, Dots in Space Time. So
Yeah.
please talk to me a little bit about your inspiration for doing that. You can run through some of the topics and things that you cover. I know one of the ones that you did, I think you dropped today, which was about, believing things and that coming into your reality, really hit home
Hmm.
when it comes to this sort of project, because if you let limitations and, all the chatter and all the extreme opinions sort of, penetrate your mind and you start to believe that, then that's exactly what's going to happen for you. So I connected to that in a major way. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about your inspiration for doing a podcast and being a black woman in this space. How does that feel?
I I've always been like this. I've
Mm-hmm.
always been like this. When I was younger, I bought a book called So You Want to Be a Witch. And I
Mm.
remember my dad looked at it and was like, so you want to be a witch? Like, dummy. Are you dumb? But I have always been interested
Mm-hmm.
in everything else. I've
Mm-hmm.
already seen this.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else? I've always been like that. And I have always been told not to be like that. Right. And I know a lot of that from the adults in my life. I'm the oldest of the oldest. Both my parents are the oldest. And I think it's like one, two, three oldest grandparents. Like there's no games being played. So
Right.
I understand now that it was fear, but then it was always me trying to like not be who I was. Very, very creative, very esoteric, very like very Solange, very Janae Aiko, very, very, Janae now, not like back then, like how she is now. I've always been like that, but trying to shape myself into a specific, and I hate to say like in a mold because
Mm-hmm.
I knew I didn't fit a mold, but I was trying to fit some, like just to fit. I was just
Mm-hmm.
trying to like find this thing that I could fit into and just do, because whenever I do
Mm-hmm.
something, I can do it. Whenever I
Right.
do something, I do it well. And then I'll be like, oh, I don't really like this. And then I try something else. So doing this now has been a result of years of building into something and then having that spiritual moment and just constant shedding, just a constant like,
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, this at the beginning, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm awakening. I've awakened. I know everything about the spiritual thing, everything. And then as you just keep, and I did an episode about this, as you just keep breaking down, it's like, oh my gosh, is this something else I need to get rid of? I
Uh-huh.
thought I got rid of everything. So recently we had literally the best manifestation possible in our lives together, my husband and myself. We had a year where we were teaching students music technology, and in reality, we were teaching them how to thrive as children into adults, as preteens into teenagers into adults, showing them a different way of life that they had never seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was eye opening for us just as much as it was for them. And before it was over. And
Mm-hmm.
we just knew we knew we had a 3-year contract at least. And
Mm-hmm.
there was so many other things coming out of it, and then it just shut down. And when you have gone through so much to bring so much into your life just for it to still be taken,
Yeah.
it's like,
Mm.
I know it wasn't for nothing because I got so much out of it, and all of those kids did too. But like, why did it end?
Right. Like,
And
what's
I
really
know,
going on?
right? Like, why would y'all stop it? So we threw ourselves into what we're doing next, and I always have something. I'm always putting my hands into something. I'm always
Mm-hmm.
coming up with an idea. Um, and this was one of those things. I had started podcasts before, but this one was
Mm-hmm.
like, I know, I know what this is. I filmed, and my episodes aren't like super long, but I filmed like 30 in like 2 days.
Mm.
I was just
Mm.
I
Wow.
was going. All them episodes you see now, like, usually people, like, you have your live and you go live and you go live, and people, some of the videos I do film on that spot, but I got a season,
Right.
and I had
Mm-hmm.
never filmed that much of anything before, and I've
Mm-hmm.
done a whole lot of stuff. So I knew
Mm-hmm.
that this was it. The dots and Spacetime idea that came after I started filming. And if
Wow.
you're like the perfectionist, it's like, oh, I have to have this, I have to have that, I have to have the next. But this time I was like, I have the idea, I have the topics, I don't have the name.
Yep.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep going. I'll figure it out as I keep. So it's been like a faith thing. It's been like a trust fall thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I met you because it's because of what's going on. Like, everything that I've been downloading to do, everything my inner voice has been telling me to do, it's been leading me to the people that I want to be around and the environments that I want to experience and all of that. So
I love
I
that.
mean, I honestly can't believe it. Honestly.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way because I think as when we're coming up, we sort of live for the expectations of other people, right? And we sort of, like you say, you mold yourself to what does dad expect me to do? What does mom expect me to do? I'm also the oldest, right? So it was like I had to tailor myself because I knew I had younger siblings coming up behind me. And you lose yourself in that, right? But the very moment, I swear to goodness, it is like magic and like clockwork, the very moment that you begin to lean into that, those downloads and those intuitive directives, right? Based on whatever that inner desire is. Sometimes we don't even know it ourselves. Our inner being knows it, right? Our inner being knows exactly what we're supposed to do, what our purpose here is. As soon as you begin to slow down a bit, right? And intentionally lean into those things, I swear to goodness, it excuse
It's
me for cursing, I was
remarkable.
shit just falls into
It
place,
really does.
right?
It really
And
does.
it's I had a very similar experience. Like I said, me and you have a whole lot in common. Very
Mm,
similar experience with me starting the Cosmic Gateways Tarot because it was something that I had wanted to do for years. And um, because I was not seeing myself reflected in spiritual spaces, right? I wasn't, and at the time I started reading tarot, I was like 16, and I bought like a little pocket size Rider Waite
mhm,
deck, and it was like, what in the world am I looking at? You know what I mean? And then you
mhm,
start researching, and you're not finding information, so you put it down, and then it comes back
mhm,
around some years later. That sort of, well, let me get back into this thing. I'm still not seeing myself, right? At the time, I did not put it, I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't put it together. I was both unhappy with the art that I was creating
mhm,
and I was wanting to make something. I was wanting to make it
mhm.
this deck, right? So I had to go through that
Mm.
dark night.
It's dark
Universe was like, ma'am, it's not going to work for you until you step into what you're supposed to
because
do.
you're an artist that's
Mm-hmm.
not happy with the art she's making, and you know what you should make, but you're not making it.
You don't do
I
it
know
for whatever.
exactly. I know
And
exactly
it's,
what
I
you
don't
mean.
know if it's fear. I don't know if it's whatever the case. It really is a lot of it is fear because you just don't know what's coming, right? But as soon as I started, same thing. I didn't have a plan. I was like, we gonna do this. Second
Mhm,
card, I had a name. I was like, okay, cool. So that's what it's supposed to be. All right, cool. And then
mhm,
you just kind of allow yourself to go with spirit and to go
mm,
with your intuition and let your folks cuss you out from time to time because I'm reading and they like, this ain't it. Make,
mhm,
help to guide you and to meet people that you can connect with and meet people that have similar interests and things like that.
mm,
So I wholeheartedly like I
mhm,
know that experience
mhm.
across the board.
It's
So I
crazy. It's
commend you,
crazy.
yeah, for continuing to do this thing because look at, you never know where it's going to lead you because you're, following spirit and you're allowing yourself to be led to these places and allowing yourself to grow without the sort of hang up of let me meet the expectations of whomever, right?
Right.
And so I love that a lot. So talk to me about some of the things that you talk about in Dots and Space Time because I know that you did like a dimensions talk, and
Mhm,
two, one thing I love about this is that the episodes are short and digestible, right?
mhm,
So that if I'm at the gym or something like that, and I just want to hear somebody connect on the subject that I love, and maybe I'm only here for 30 minutes, I can really go through some good episodes and get charged up
mhm,
and be
mhm.
ready to do the next
I
thing. And I
love
love
it.
how transparent you are in your podcast. So talk to us a
Mhm.
little bit about some of the things that you talk about and go through in your episodes.
I'm trying to get people to see things how I see things
Mm-hmm.
because if you think about how they say a fifth dimensional being would be, they can see time from beginning to end as one thing. They can
Mm-hmm.
see you in this slice of time that we have these continuing slices. They can see you from childhood till
Mm-hmm.
your deathbed. They can just see it all. So I can't, I'm not saying I can see that. I can see people's cycles that they go through. I can
Mm-hmm.
see how this is going to end up for you. I do not know why. And, I was cursed out my whole life. Like, you don't know everything, Zajé. You know how Kanye was like, you don't let the answer sway. That was like everybody talking to me. And I started doubting what I was
Mm-hmm.
envisioning and seeing and feeling and
Mm-hmm.
believing. And now I'm starting to get back into it. But for a very long time, I just did not believe what my mind, my spirit told me because that's what I was told that it was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But time be telling, and it comes back, and I was right. But anyway, I am trying to get people to see things the way that I see them. So I'm literally and I like to pair it with science because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times people like to be like, "Oh, that's too woo woo, that's too far fetched."
Right. I
Well,
love
the
that.
me and my mom and my sisters, we don't like to say like the three-letter boys out all the way. So I'll be like carrots and apples because I'm not gonna say the letters. But
Mm-hmm.
they put out their paperwork saying all of this has been true this entire time, but they have kept
Right.
it confidential and redacted. You
Mm-hmm.
can read it yourself. I know everybody don't have time to read all that. So I'll read it for you because that's one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite things to do is research and talk about what I've researched. I
I
just
love
do it
that.
all on my own. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Daddy said that at one of my baby showers, like my favorite thing to do was research. And I was like, what is it? And y'all gonna say that at the baby shower? Like, whatever. Anyway, um, so I try to like go from this is the world that we are living in. This is what you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing. This is
Yeah.
what you think you're seeing. This
Mm-hmm.
is what you're not seeing. And this is what we like some things we don't even know that we don't know. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
exploring all of that. Because how can you learn to manifest if you don't know what's going on? That's just how I
Right.
think
Right. Mm-hmm.
your prayers are manifestation. Like when you pray to God, you are asking God to give you something in your life and you want it to come to your physical life. That's you
Mm-hmm.
want it to manifest. Whether you think it's you or God or whoever, you play a part in that. So I'm
Right.
just trying to go through all of that. And then sometimes I'm just driving on the way to get my son or to the store, get whatever. And it's something in my head like that one that was like, what you believe you will receive. What you receive,
Mm-hmm.
you will believe you will receive. And it's just like this constant, it was just playing in my head. So I'm like, let me stop and just get all of this out. So that's really what it
Mm-hmm.
is. We are all just dots in space time. We're all just traveling dots. And if you think, to me, if you think about it as simply as that, then it's like, who's to tell me what I'm going to do and what I can't do?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That was my point.
I love that. And I love it because it's very now, right? So even though
Hmm.
we listen to our Neville Goddards and we listen to Abraham Hicks and different people like
Yes.
that, um, you doing this speaks to now, right? It speaks
Hmm.
to a
Hmm.
certain demographic from a certain demographic's point of view, and I
Hmm.
think that that makes it so much easier to digest for someone who may not, who may just be like, I'm just curious, I don't know, I don't know if this is, what I'm experiencing. So to be able to um, be in that space, I think is a superpower because everybody speaks a different language. Everybody's
Yeah.
receptive to different
Yeah.
points of conversation, and so I love that about you. I'm like, I know
Yeah.
we
No,
friends.
but
I told
no, we friends. We friends.
yeah,
But like to
I
your
told her behind the
point,
scenes we friends, and she don't even know it. But I love that. Yeah.
no, I did. My inner self knew. But to your point, my husband, who I said is also very interested in space, he has so many guys he can just pull up
Mm,
online. The thing with me and men is like I can listen to you, but to an extent, because you do not know how it is to be filled with like these hormones that are on a
yeah.
30-day cycle. Y'all's on
Yeah.
24 hours. Y'all don't get this. The way that they move in the world is very much different from how we move in this
Mhm.
world. And then there are other people in other ethnicities in this space and their experience is not ours. I just saw a video where Esther Hicks was talking to some man who was asking her, if all this law of attraction is out here, then why is there genocide? Why was there slavery? Why was there a
Mhm.
Holocaust? And she was trying to explain it, and in my head I'm like, if we could just think about the duality of some of these people, to me, are not even people. Some of these people are not human beings and they came here from God knows where. But it's like, in addition to trying to attract something, I got to keep on fighting you.
Right. Right.
It's an element there that some of them, they just don't, they can't verbalize because they don't know, they didn't live it. So
Right.
I'm like, maybe if I talk about it, people will listen. Hopefully they'll listen because I love this stuff. Like I love
Mhm.
talking about it. It takes me no time at all to set up and get
Mhm.
the microphone together. Like I said, I sing, we record in here. I had everything to do it. So I'm just like,
Mm.
might as well
Just
get
get
it
it
done.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yes. So, I just lost my train of thought because
Uh,
I was like, I was like, that's really good.
sorry,
I
I
was
know it's
like,
like it's like
oh snap! I was excuse me, but I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then I was like, I forgot what I was gonna say. But anyhow,
Mm,
I do like I said, I really, really appreciate that point of view because again, just again to your point, when we come to different teachers and things, they don't have our very unique experience, especially in this particular country of being black in America and dealing with the generational trauma that we have to navigate to in order to get to a certain level of consciousness, right? And so to have people who understand what that's like to be an oldest daughter who's the oldest of an oldest of an oldest and having
goodness.
to navigate those experiences as you heal yourself to then be able to talk and articulate those points to the next person, I think is powerful, and there are not a lot of people doing that in that space, right? So you certainly speak to like I said, a certain demographic. And I think that's awesome that, like I said, it's very relatable. It's very easy to digest. I love that there are shorter episodes because that means that after I listen to this, let me think about it for a bit, right? And how can I apply this, whether right, as opposed to like some of the longer podcasts where you listening. So, for instance, I'm listening to Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth. And I don't know if you ever heard Eckhart speak. Eckhart speaks extremely slow because every word is very intentional, and he's not raising certain emotions within himself. But listening to that for an hour long, I kind of miss a little bit of the message because I understand why he speaks that way. I understand and it's strong messaging, but it can be very difficult to digest. So having someone who looks like me, right, who looks like the next person, who can break these things down and do the research, right? And I love that you said that you back it with science because I was talking about the book Alchemy of Nine Dimensions, where they talk about all of where they talk to about nine dimensions, even though we know that there's more. They talk about these nine dimensions and then they back it up with science, right? So that means that things can be proven or disproven. You can run these experiments and things like that. So I love that you do that because then the person listening to you can go and say, okay, well, let me go check this out, right? Rather than having someone just sort of I don't want to say preach, but like, preach
Yeah,
to
so
me,
pretty.
right?
Yeah, and I didn't want to do.
So
I didn't
you
want to
you
do that because I don't think that I know. I I'm at a I'm at a point now where I know that I don't know anything. I don't know
mhm.
anything. I'm learning as I'm going,
Right.
and I want to. First of all, you're not gonna fight me because I know what I'm talking about. That's number one. But I also don't want to follow blindly. I don't want to sit here and try to
Right.
manifest, and I don't even know where I got this from. Like, where did I get this from? What was
Right.
it?
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? So there is a level, there's a layer of proof that I want
Right.
with everything. It is. There is.
Right. Yeah, that came up in a book I'm reading. I read a lot. I read
Good.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Me
So
too.
I'm reading this series called The Celestine Prophecy. And the Celestine Prophecy is written
Mm,
as a novel series, right? So
mm,
it's kind of written as a parable, but the first one goes through how to raise your energy levels and your consciousness so that you can get to the next level. And so each book in the series kind of builds on that. So I'm on the last book of this series. And one of the things that they mention is, how you can use that information, research and things like that, so that it goes into science. It goes into being able to prove a thing so that that becomes real in your experience. And if something becomes real in your experience, then you can't tell me what I experienced.
you
You
can.
know
You
what
can.
I'm saying?
You
Can't
can.
nobody sit and tell me that my folks don't be cussing me out when I'm sitting at the table. Grandma, I don't know. And I'm hearing, get off,
It's
you cannot tell me I don't,
right.
So
Right.
once that becomes real in your experience, then things go up a level. You know what I mean? They go up in a
Mhm.
level of understanding. And then that's when you get into your wisdom, right? So your knowledge, your wisdom,
Mhm.
your understanding. So I think
Yeah.
that's I think that's a beautiful invaluable skill that you have and sort of a space that you've created to be able to do that. So again, I commend you for that, and I thank you. I give you gratitude for creating those things, and I'm definitely going to check out more episodes. I was only able to catch a few, but I was like, I swear, me
Thank
and her.
you.
I was like,
For sure. It's like, I need you to send me some of your book recommendations because I have some, like
mhm.
Becoming Supernatural, and my girlfriend just told me to get this other book that. it might have been The Stranger. I forget what it's called, but I've been reading a couple of things, but it hasn't. I've been looking for things that are actually going to speak to me and not just
Right.
like you said, preach. I really want to know what is going on right now. And these books
Right.
sound like they could teach me some
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
Well, for sure. I got
mhm,
you. I,
appreciate
I
it.
got I think a book for just about just
Yeah,
about anything. So
good.
I can definitely help you with that. All right, so we're gonna close it out. So please
Mhm.
tell us where we can find out more about Zaje, where we can catch your podcast, where we can learn about your deck once those that starts coming out and being advertised. Give us a little bit of rundown, and then what's coming up next for you.
Okay, so Instagram is underscore ZAJE underscore underscore. And then TikTok is just underscore Zajé underscore.
Okay.
Um, YouTube, Dots in Spacetime. All the podcasts, Dots in Spacetime. When I
Okay.
do release the tarot deck, Oracle deck, I'm sure that I will pose it there first. I'm gonna put it
Okay.
there first because I know that's the people that want to hear it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know about everybody else. Um, And then I have a website and things soon. I just really wanted to get started creating and pushing it out there to really like get the energies and frequencies flowing and
Right.
bring people towards this messaging that I'm just I was saying that a couple years ago, like I'm just a messenger. None of this is from me. I don't know nothing. I'm just a human being. I'm just out here.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then I will be doing creating music in this space. My
Okay.
music before was like more, like I was saying before, just people kind of giving me an idea or I'm taking
Mm-hmm.
an idea from somewhere else. But now I'm really just more intentional about what I'm putting into
Mm-hmm.
what I'm putting out. So
Right.
all of that will probably just funnel its way through Docs and Space Time first because it's all relative, it's all coming together.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, music will be on the horizon next, and hopefully, my newest my newest intention, my newest visualization is having my music in TV, film,
Yes.
ads. That's what I want.
Oh, that would
I
be
want
so awesome.
Grammys and Emmys.
I know
Okay,
that's right. Get that licensing,
so
girl. Better get that money. Get it.
okay,
I
well,
see it for
that's
you.
what we're working on now. We'll actually be at a conference this weekend. This is my first time going to Los Angeles, and I just want this to be, I know that this is the beginning of that next chapter. So I'm gonna
Mm.
be, I'm gonna be excited. I used to be worried when the new
Yeah.
chapter started, but now I'm excited.
I'm excited for you. That is so
Thank
awesome. Well,
you.
thank you
Thank
so,
you.
so much for joining me again. This was a
You.
super special episode. So, whether you're
Yeah.
watching this live with us or you're watching the replay, I thank you all for joining us this beautiful Sunday afternoon. And with
Mhm.
that, I leave you all with a wonderful, peaceful, creative, and prosperous day. So, thank you so, so much again for
Thank you,
joining us.
Brittany.
And we'll see you next week. Peace.